Welcome into a brand new edition of the 06010 ESPN Communications podcast. I'm the host, Alex Feuz, and we are joined by the one and only Arda Öcal, ESPN host for SportsCenter and NHL content. Arda, thanks so much for coming on the podcast today. First off, NHL Four Nations Face-Off begins tonight on ESPN. Exclusive coverage, prime time between the U.S. and Finland at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN and ESPN Plus. How excited are you for this series of events coming up for the NHL?
Before I answer that, thank you for having me on the show. You know that I text you about it all the time. Whenever you have guests on, I always text, "Hey, I like this episode," etc. So I'm a big fan. First time, long time. Let's put it that way, Alex.
Thank you, Arda.
So I'm very excited for Four Nations Face-Off. We have been waiting for the best taking on the best on the men's side of hockey for a very long time now. We haven't seen it, particularly between Canada and the USA, which is a marquee matchup I'm sure we'll talk about, since 2016. And now we have the opportunity to see players like Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews represent their countries at the tippy top for the very first time. So there is a lot to get excited about as it pertains to Four Nations Face-Off.
And Four Nations Face-Off is new and taking place in lieu of the NHL All-Star Weekend this year. What is Four Nations, and why should hockey fans be excited about it?
So this is a four-team international competition. Essentially, you could look at it as an appetizer, a soft launch to the return of best-on-best international competition. We may never see this tournament in its format like this ever again. There's only four teams involved: Canada, the United States, Finland, and Sweden. The way it's going to unfold, it's starting on Wednesday. It's going to be for 2 weeks, and essentially it's going to be every team plays every other team. So you will see Team USA play Sweden, Finland, and Canada. And then the top two teams after that round robin round will face off in a championship game, which is next Thursday. So it's essentially an opportunity for fans to see the best players in the NHL represent their countries: Canada and USA, Sweden and Finland also. Those are two countries that definitely don't like each other. So there's a lot of animosity there. So you're going to get that level of competition that we've been dreaming about and wanting for at least a decade now. And this will all lead in, of course, to the Olympics, which will happen next year. And then we will have a whole new era, beginning with this tournament, of international competition.
When you first heard the NHL was going to do this year, what was your first reaction?
I was thrilled because as a Canadian growing up in Toronto, I remember the days where Canada wasn't winning at the Olympics. And I remember in 1998 when NHL players returned or played in the Olympics. And I remember how much 98 Nagano stung for Canadians. With such a unfortunate result for Canadians. But I also remember the elation of 2002 when Team Canada, women's and men's, both won gold medals. That Canada versus USA gold medal game, it was both, particularly on the men's side, is seared on in my brain. Those memories, those calls, watching it in Canada, surrounded by people, those memories will never leave me. And I also remember tournaments like the 1996 World Cup of Hockey, which was won by the United States. And looking at the teams right now, Alex, Team USA is stacked. And Team USA, like this, we might be entering a golden era of Team USA hockey. And this tournament, when it's all said and done, might actually be a coronation. It might be an introduction. It might be a stamp for Team USA to assert themselves as a dominant hockey force, particularly on the men's side. They've won the World Junior Hockey Championship the last 2 years, and now with a victory here, there's a lot of bragging rights that goes along with that.
And the championship game will be on February 20th at Boston TD Garden at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Now, Arda, let's get into your career. You've had a diverse career from esports to hockey to the WWE, and then now here, of course, everything you've done at ESPN, and also you were a weathertainment person, as you coined the term, before getting into the sports landscape. How do you think your journey led to where you are today?
It was a don't say no to anything kind of journey, right? Like this is a very fickle industry. This is a very unpredictable industry. Nobody's path is linear. Some people achieve success sooner than others. And what I've learned through 20 plus years of chasing the dream and trying out different hats, so to speak, is just be grateful every second that I have in this industry because it's the most fun I could possibly have in a career. So, like when you read off my resume like that, it just reminds me of how ridiculous my career has actually been. And even at ESPN, like I was hired at ESPN. So I started in 2016. The very first thing I did at ESPN was actually esports. I went to Madison Square Garden for the League of Legends World Championship, and I hosted ESPN's digital coverage. And that was the very first thing I did. And in 2019, after a few years of working part-time, I got hired full-time. And the three things that they had identified for me to cover were esports, MLS soccer, and sports betting. And now look what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like it just goes to show you that like nothing is predictable in this industry, right? Things change, things move, and if you can be nimble enough to ride the wave and seek the other opportunities, then you'll have a shot at longevity in this industry.
When did you think you needed to have that mindset to be nimble or to be open to trying different things that, you might have not thought you would work on that property when you got hired, essentially in the beginning?
Oh, very early. I had some good advice given to me in that realm early in my career. Essentially, say yes to everything. Don't be shy to try things that you're not familiar with, especially at the lower levels. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to learn. In fact, ESPN, like when ESPN, I approached ESPN soon after I left WWE, and the first place I knocked, the first door I knocked on was the WWE vertical back when it launched. And I said, hey, I just left WWE. Maybe I can contribute to this. And the response was, we'll definitely keep that in mind, but we have an immediate need for esports. Now imagine I had said no to that. I didn't know anything about esports, Alex. Zero. I had never played League of Legends. I had never watched League of Legends esports. What I did know was I had a month to prepare. So I treated it like a full-time job. Every day, 8 hours a day at minimum, reading up on the scene, learning about the key players, learning about the teams, the history, watching previous events, asking questions, finding people online, prepping like any person would prep for a job like this, to the point where I could become comfortable and competent enough to be on the desk with the people who are much smarter than me, the analysts, to put them in positions to succeed.
What's one thing you haven't worked on yet at ESPN that you would love to work on?
I'd love to do a cup final. I think that it would be really cool. We've done some digital coverage. It would be nice to be part of the game coverage when we do on years that we do have the Stanley Cup. Everyone should aspire to do that. Quite frankly, that should always be a goal for anyone to rise to the occasion at the top level coverage like that. I've done a lot. Like I've been very high. Like when I got asked to do SportsCenter, I didn't even think SportsCenter was an option for me. I didn't even know to dream of that. I was, it was a set of circumstances that allowed me and people opened doors for me, which I'm very grateful for. But when it was presented to me, I was very excited, but I was also like, me? Really? Like, you're giving me this opportunity. And, obviously I'm not going to say no to that. I was definitely nervous on my first one, but, I came in prepared and I have now done over 100, I would say. And it's been one of the thrills of my career. So, but the beauty of ESPN is, and you know this too, Alex, is every door is available to you. Everything is available to you. The worst that can be said is no, not now. And you can always revisit. You can always figure it out. If I have big dreams like, hey, one day I'd like to host my own show. One day I'd like to do tennis coverage. One day I would like to, it's possible. Listen, look at the hoodie I'm wearing. This is literally ESPN's official Star Wars show. Did you ever think in a million years, in the 40-plus year illustrious history of ESPN, that there would ever be a thought of having an official a show about Star Wars? But we made it happen. And it just goes to show you that the world is your oyster at ESPN if you make it so. And so I'm very proud of Never Tell Me the Odds. Shout out to Clinton Yates and Ryan McGee and the Synergy team, Aaron Thornton and all of our wonderful people that work on the show. Like this to me is like a crowning achievement of what is possible at ESPN.
And we'll get into your podcast. Obviously, you host Never Tell Me the Odds and the Puck, so we'll get into that a little later on. What's been your most memorable moment at ESPN so far?
My first SportsCenter was absolutely memorable. I got to host a few playoff games for the NHL and ESPN. The first time hosting The Point was special. I've had a lot of cool firsts. I got to appear in a couple of commercials, which was a lot of fun. A couple of Marvel commercials. I did one with Stephon Diggs, where sneakers didn't exist. It was a Doctor Strange commercial. That was a lot of fun. I got to do one for Guardians of the Galaxy that Chris Pratt was in. So that's the thing. Like, these are things that I wouldn't have even thought to dream about, you know? And I've been very blessed to have those kinds of opportunities. Going back to Star Wars, I got to do a segment on SportsCenter dressed up in full Grand Admiral Thrawn, blue face paint, red eye contact lenses, the full getup. That was awesome. And I actually got a message from the fine folks at Lucasfilm about that one, about how hilarious they thought it was, which was like, all right, this is flowers that I will keep and put in a vase and put to the side. Thank you very much. But yeah, I've been blessed to have a lot of really cool moments at ESPN, and the latest one being on the 06010 podcast. Yes.
Well, thank you. I'm gonna have to clip that part. And was it your idea or someone else's idea for you to dress up in that costume for that SportsCenter?
So I got lucky in the sense that we had just had meetings, like SportsCenter-wide meetings, a few weeks prior to when this happened. And the edict was, let's get creative, let's think outside the box, let's take some swings. So that was the paradigm that was being introduced, or at least reaffirmed about SportsCenter. And then it just so happened to be that I was hosting SportsCenter close enough to Halloween. I think it was like a couple days prior. So I went to one of the producers and I said, hey, I have this idea for this on-camera lead-in. What if I did it dressed up as Grand Admiral Thrawn? And he said, absolutely. His name is Evan Anderholm. He's one of the producers of SportsCenter. He said, absolutely. In fact, let's deck out Studio X. And so I walked in and I was like, wow, this feels like the Death Star. This is amazing. Like, it was like the Chimera was there, which is Thrawn's ship, and the Imperial logo, and it just like everything was so good. It was spectacular. Like, it hit me. Like, I had goosebumps walking in. I was like, oh my gosh, this is unbelievable. So yeah, I will never forget that.
That's awesome. I remember seeing it. I remember watching it, and then obviously I've seen the photos on social media. It's one of the best things that's ever happened, in my opinion.
That's awesome. I love that so much.
Arda, this is my favorite part of any interview I do. It's the Fuse 5. It's 5 quick questions. Are you ready?
I am.
You are a member of Mensa. How did you become a member of it, and can you walk me through the process?
Yes. So it's easier than people think. You have to be at a certain percentage.
You told me this yesterday, and I laughed because I said, of course, the member of Mensa says it's easier than you think to get in.
Okay. Let me explain the process. So what I meant by easy or the process is more, the barrier to entry is lower than people think. Let me put it that way. What I mean by that is, if you have ever taken there's basically a list of like 200 tests that Mensa accepts for admission. I don't know what all of them, you can find them online. And you have to score within a percentile in those tests in order to be admitted. However, what I mean is, if you have ever taken those tests at any point in your life, even if you were a child, and you scored in that percentile in one of those approved tests, that counts. So if you were 8 years old and or I don't know what the age cutoff is. Let's just say it's 8. If you were 8 years old and you took at that time one of the 200 approved tests and you fell within the proper percentile that Mensa's looking for, that would qualify you for admission. It's not like you have to take a test now. Now, I did because I didn't have any tests like that in my past, or if I did, I didn't have the results. So I just studied like it was an exam, and then I took a test. Literally, one of the Mensa qualifier individuals came to a library. I think it was like Stanford Public Library, and then I just sat there and did the test. That's how it happened for me. It was as simple as that. I just booked it through the local Mensa chapter, and they had someone come out and do the aptitude test, or one of the approved aptitude tests, and I was lucky enough that I passed, and then I got admitted.
You remember like one question from the test?
It was a lot of like those like riddles, like if you're good at riddles, if you're good at like problem solving, it's not necessarily like calculus, it's not like, don't think it's like third year college type questions. It's very, I remember it, at least the test that I did was very like problem solving, or like solving riddles, or like things like that. It's not like or at least in mine, it's not like they gave you a Rubik's Cube and said, all right, solve this.
Did you think it would be easy for you to pass?
No, I did not. Oh, there was a section on writing on cams for college baseball. So people just read up on that for sure. And reading highlights too. You had to do a top 10.
Number 2, I could talk about getting into Mensa though.
I love it.
Number 2 for the Fast 5, who is one person at ESPN that has given you the best advice you've ever received?
Oh man, I've had a lot of people. There's a lot of people across different departments that have helped me a lot. My boss, Mike Foss, has been really good with me. He's been terrific at guiding me and giving me good advice. Mike McQuaid was one of the people who started the NHL on ESPN, and obviously he's running things now, and he was very good with his time with me as well. He would sit down and give me some really valuable notes on some of the work that I was doing with the NHL on ESPN. Linda Schultz does that as well now, which is invaluable to me because it's always good to get tune-ups. It's always good to see where things are going and where to improve, because there's always room for improvement. So things like that. We work with a lot of great producers on the NHL and ESPN. And then there's a guy by the name of Kevin Lopes who works on ESPN Edge. He is terrific. I just like him, and I talk business a lot, and I love that. Like, I just love soaking in his business knowledge, him and his team. I love working with them, and it's always a thrill to like bounce ideas and seek counsel with people like Kevin, because he's very, very smart.
If you could have dinner with 3 people that could be have passed on or here still with us, who would you choose and why?
3 people. Muhammad Ali is definitely one. He would probably be at the top of my list. Muhammad Ali is one. Who else would I choose? Man, this is a tough one. Sports or anything? Anything. Martin Short. I love Martin Short. Only Murders in the Building. Oh my gosh. I honestly, I would pick right off the top of my head, anyone who was on the SCTV cast. So Rick Moranis, Martin Short, Steve Martin, obviously too. John Candy, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, they had such an awesome group, a comedy group. I would probably pick some comedians too, like Chappelle, Chris Rock, Kevin Hart, Bill Burr, Nikki Glazer, like a lot of comedians, because I actually. It's kind of like Jerry Seinfeld. Like, I have a fascination in the science of comedy, like what makes things funny. So I would love to sit in a room of very famous and successful comedians and just understand how they make things funny. That would be a lot of fun, I think.
Maybe you and I can have dinner with Martin Short sometime, because that would be. I've always wanted to meet him. He's he's the best.
I would say he probably has the best stories of anyone. Like, I just want to listen to his life stories, like how, career funny. Like, I just feel like he would be the best dinner guest, the guy to like sit down with for a meal or a beer or something like that. Like, I think he would be awesome.
Yeah, I agree. If there was a 5th nation in the NHL and it was made up of Disney characters, who would be 5 that you would choose?
Okay, so this is cheating for at least one or two of them. Characters from the Mighty Ducks animated series. So I'm going to pick one or two there. I'm going to start strong, okay? I got to build a foundation, Alex.
Yeah.
Definitely any Star Wars individuals on Hoth, on the planet Hoth. We definitely need a couple. Maybe some of those frozen troopers or people driving the AT-ATs, like anything like that. Anybody, or maybe even a Han Solo. Like, throw him on Hoth for a little while, and he stays there, picks up the game. I can see him being an excellent hockey player. He would be no nonsense, and he would be, your tough guy. So we definitely would need that. Or maybe even a droid, like a Hu Yang. Like, Hu Yang knows every lightsaber in the universe, probably would eventually learn every single piece of hockey equipment in the universe. So probably be a good person to have on your side too. So let's say that's 4. So let's add 2 more. I'd add someone like a Juggernaut or something in net, like just a large human that would just occupy the entire net, Yeah. Or maybe a Miss Marvel that would just like stretch herself so that no pucks would ever get in. I think that's a good one. But yeah, that. And then I would have like a pleasant, like Mickey Mouse is your coach, Like I want a pleasant voice, encouraging. I want optimism. But then I need the flip side too. I need someone that's going to be like no nonsense and just give me the the facts straight. So who would that be?
Maybe Donald?
Yeah, like more of a Donald, like someone who's not gonna throw you hot air. Like just someone that'll just tell you like it is.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Good.
That's
a good team. That's a good team. They might win 4 nations.
That's true. They could. they very well could. And then the last one for you, I really want to know if this is true or not. I read somewhere on the internet, so the internet is true, that you can have very many different ways how to greet in different languages. Is this accurate?
I used to be up to 65. Now, the reason I don't do this at ESPN is out of respect to Emily Kaplan, because Emily has she thanks people in her interviews in their native language. So that's why I don't advertise this very much, because at ESPN, that's Emily's thing. So I'm not going to do the language thing. Do you know what I mean? Like out of respect. So, But yes, back in the day, I used to collect greetings, and I try to be able to say hello or how are you or something in as many languages as possible. Yes.
So in 30 seconds, how many could you do right now?
Okay. Polish is jak shumasz. Urdu is ap keseheng. Namaste, obviously, for Hindi. Bonjour is French. Como stai is Italian. Como sta is Portuguese. Como estás? I mean, some of them are similar. Jak sumash, I believe, is Czech language. Merhaba nasılsınız is Turkish. I speak Turkish. What else? Tikanis is Greek. Spasiba, I think, is thank you in Russian. I used to know how to say it in, oh my gosh. Ni hao, I believe, is Mandarin. And Lei ho ma, I think, is Cantonese.
10 seconds.
Oh my gosh. Konnichiwa is Japanese. Yeah, that's what I got. That's what I got.
That's amazing. That deserves a round of applause.
Not bad.
Not many people can do that.
I'm rusty.
Not many people, and I put you on the spot too. I didn't tell you I was going to do that one. So, but Arda, this has been so much fun. Obviously, you can listen to Arda's 2 podcasts, Never Tell Me the Odds and The Puck, and see him across ESPN platforms, especially over the next few weeks with the NHL 4 Nations face-off as well. I know you've been wanting to come on the podcast, so it's been a thrill to finally have you on, and we could go on for the next hour. So, Arda, appreciate you for coming on the 06010 Communications podcast today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate the invite. I hope to return at some point. I just want to say, in closing, just one thing. The PR team, the communications team, you guys work very hard, and you don't often get as many flowers as you should. So I want to throw you all some flowers. I've worked with many of you across my years at ESPN, whether it's yourself, Alex, whether it's B. Panitz, whether it's Dre and Danny with the NHL. You guys have a terrific team that works very hard and diligently to put your properties and the things you work on in the best possible light, and you take care of us talent very, very well. And whether we tell you often or not, we really should. And this is me saying, you guys are awesome. You guys are the best. Keep up the good fight and the great work. And we appreciate it, just so you know.
Arda, thanks so much. Really do appreciate it. Thanks for your time today during this busy stretch for you. I thank you.
Cheers.